Welcome to r/slash malicious compliance, where OP dumps a bag of garbage over his boss's head. So, slight backstory, I was working as a bar manager in a student pub. The new owner and I hated each other. It was actually scary just how deep that hatred ran. However, I was as fast as bartender and simply too popular amongst the other employees to just fire. So instead, he would always belittle me in front of clients or other staff members and find ways to make my job more insufferable. I'm guessing in hopes that I would simply quit. So the bar was at the front of the store. The exit was right by the front entrance, which led through a caged off alley, which led to the alley where we dumped all the garbage from the bar and restaurant. We'd always carried the refuse out that way. It was easy, effective, and we didn't have to walk through the restaurant carrying garbage bags. So obviously, the new owner made the rational decision to start locking that way off and forbidding us from using it. This meant we now had to walk through the restaurant, where people were eating, up a mini stairwell and through the kitchen. I don't even know how many health and safety regulations this was violating. I'd protested this at several staff meetings, explaining to him that us not being allowed to go that way doubled the trip, which left the bar a man short for double the time. It was also double the time for the bags to tear, considering they were usually filled with heavy and sometimes broken bottles. And mostly, it was just unsanitary walking through the restaurant and kitchen with bags that were usually dripping fluids. So, obviously, he refused and said we'll continue doing it his way. Cut forward a few nights later, and the place was packed, likely to overcapacity. But in case it wasn't clear, safety concerns weren't much of a priority for this twat. I should also point out that the bar only had one garbage bin, which had filled up several beer bottles ago. The other bartenders had been ignoring it because if you're carrying out garbage bags, then you're not serving customers, and if you're not serving customers, you're not making tips. So I decided to take this task upon myself and to venture out of the bar. I felt like Frodo carrying the ring to Mordor. As I mentioned, the bag was already over its recommended weight capacity. So I had to get through this crowd fast because I could feel it was going to tear quickly. Some of the glass had broken inside the bag too, and it started cutting into me as I tried carrying the bag from the bottom to keep it from tearing open, all while fighting my way through a crowd of drunk students. I finally made it to the mini stairwell by the kitchen where the drunk owner and a random drunk girl was sitting on the stairs. The bag was now super close to tearing, and my hands were covered in blood from getting cut by the glass. I tried getting the stupid boss's attention, begging him to move so I could get past. The boss ignored me. I'll say that the first time it was entirely possible that he may not have heard me over the crowd and the loud music. So I tried again. This time, he looked straight at me and then continued to ignore me anyway. Cue the malicious compliance as I lifted the bag right over him and the girl just for it to tear open right above them, drowning them both in dripping bottles of beer and pieces of shattered glass. I felt bad for the girl. She had not deserved this. As for the owner, screw him. The kitchen staff heard the crash and screams and ran out to clean the mess. I tried helping, but they told me to go back to the bar. A few seconds later, the owner came storming into the bar, screaming at me and asking me what possessed me to try and lift a garbage bag over the head of him and a customer. I innocently said that I wouldn't have had to if he had just let us go through the alley. The owner gave me the biggest death glare I'd ever gotten and took the alley key off his key ring, threw it at me, and stormed out of the bar. So even though I'd been forced to cover a girl in glass to get my point across, I still walked out of this battle victorious. And then OP adds in an edit. For those of you upset about me endangering the girl, I agree. I think I literally said that in the first sentence of the story that I felt bad about it and still do to this day. And I'll just clarify here that OP did actually say that at the start of the story, but I skipped it because his intro wasn't very relevant. But she wasn't injured, neither was my stupid boss, unfortunately, and this was 12 years ago. I was barely older than 19, and we all did things in our younger years that we weren't proud of. OP, your boss broke open a beer bottle piñata with his face. Our next Reddit post is from Speculatrix. A long time ago, I was working at a well-respected and expensive consulting business who were renting an office. They'd spend good money installing air conditioning and making the reception area pretty decent and other work like interior walls, shelving, high-quality decor, etc. When the tenant company wanted to move out, the contract said they had to restore the building back as it was, but they asked the landlord to allow them to walk away and not return the building back to the more basic shell it had been, which would have meant leaving the air conditioning in and not having to remove the fancy reception area, remove the walls, partitions, shelving, etc. This would have been a win-win for both parties. For some reason, the landlord said no, and despite attempts to persuade them, they were adamant. The tenant said okay and ripped everything out, including tens of thousands of dollars worth of air conditioning, leaving the landlord with an empty shell again, which proved harder to rent out and attracted lower rent. The building was empty for quite a while. About 4 years later, I worked there when another company had leased it. The building was horribly hot in summer because of the lack of air conditioning, and the reception looked cheap and nasty, nowhere near as nice as it had been. The offices were carpeted, but obviously the cheapest stuff was fitted. I told my new employer that the building had been much nicer and with air conditioning, and that they were stunned that the stupid landlord had wasted the opportunity. And then, down in the comments, we have this story from Technos. A company I worked for ran into something similar. The tenant leaving the building had put in air conditioning, cubicles, lighting upgrades, and a decent enough rack, phone system, and UPS. Not wanting to rip it all out, they approached my company, the new tenant, and offered it to us. After a couple of inspections, they sold us the stuff for the sum of $1, and we agreed to lease it back to them for the final months of their tenancy for that same $1. When my company went to move in properly, however, we found the locks changed and everything was gone except for a note from the owner apologizing for the dust. My company asked the building owner, why'd you rip out the cubicles, lighting, air conditioner, and computer equipment? The owner said, "Oh, that belonged to the last tenant. Don't worry, you don't have to pay for the disposal." "No, it belonged to us. We've been in the space for a month now." "Huh? This is the first I'm hearing of it." "We informed your office over 60 days ago, in writing, that we had purchased the fixtures from the existing tenants. I have an email from your property manager acknowledging it. We also have in writing from the same manager an acknowledgement of our sublease of the space starting last month. Not only did we terminate the lease, the company insurer went after him for somewhere north of $300,000 and won." So that landlord ripped out all the property belonging to that company and sold it? What a moron. Our next Reddit post is from Flapjack. During this pandemic, I found peace by sitting in my garden watching YouTube videos and scrolling Reddit. I always sit on my swing chair. A swing chair is a chair mixed with a swing, so you sit and swing without annoying chains or having to go out. My swing chair has been through a lot, so much so to the point where if you sit on it, it squeaks a bit. I like the squeaks though, so I keep using it. My neighbor hates my family. Ever since my mom, my brother, and I moved into my now stepdad's house. She especially hates me for some reason. One day, my parents got to stay out from work, so we were all home. I was out on the swing chair listening to music using headphones. All of a sudden, a bucket gets thrown over the fence and almost hit me. I jumped and took off my headphones. I asked, "Who did that?" My neighbor responded with, "Stop swinging on your chair. You're distracting my children and making them jealous. Either stop or give it to me." I asked, "How am I distracting them?" She replied, "The sound makes them look through the hole they made in the fence." I said that I'll stop. Here's the malicious compliance. I stopped going on my swing chair and instead picked up an old hobby of mine, drumming. I played it so much that my family would sometimes have to speak louder to talk to me. This is where it gets weird though. She then phoned my personal phone, and I've never given my number to anyone except my close friends. Apparently, she had gone to my mom's Facebook, searched for a pic of me and my friends, found my best friend's number by some means, and posed as my aunt asking for my number so she could check up on me. She called me, yelling at me to stop drumming. I asked why, and she said because of the noise. I said that she said that I had to stop swinging, so I took up a hobby. She hung up. I now go on my swing chair and play drums with my brother on his guitar. Revenge is best served cold. I love this reply from Penguin down in the comments. I think the poor children may be in need of uplifting presents. Whistles, vuvuzelas, clappers, clackers, kazoos, or some drums of their own. Check your favorite football fan supply store. A few bucks will go a long way. Check for bulk discounts. Our next Reddit post is from T-Rex Moflex. And on this post, OP's friend is a manager for Costco at the membership and returns counter. Costco has a pretty relaxed return policy, so 99% of the time customers bring things in to return or exchange, my friend says it's no questions asked. But if on the computer system he notices in someone's transaction history that they're abusing the system, he'll deny the returns and offer a pretty clear explanation as to why. Honestly, most people don't raise a big stink. The evidence is pretty clear and they say, "Oh, okay, I didn't know that's how it worked," and go on with their lives. But last week, a customer was getting pretty upset that my friend wasn't going to do a return even though there was a long list of transactions that made it pretty obvious this guy was routinely buying things, using them a few times as needed, then returning them. In this case, he'd bought a bunch of food and was trying to return the packaging for full returns. He's not backing down. My friend has full authority to cancel a membership, and this comes with a refund most of the time. And he tells the guy, "Sir, it doesn't seem like you're happy with our products and services. I'm going to go ahead and cancel your membership and give you a full refund of the annual fee." The guy, immediately understanding that this means he won't be allowed back into Costco, sits kind of stunned for a few seconds, then gets real panicky. Like, No, I'm good. Please don't do that." My friend isn't backing down, so the guy asks to speak to a manager. My friend plays the whole, "I am the manager of this department," so the guy escalates. The assistant warehouse manager comes over and looks at the transaction history and immediately sides with my friend, saying virtually the same thing but in super sing-songy, "We're so sorry you haven't been happy with the products we sell," and backs my friend up while he finishes canceling the guy's membership. Honestly, that guy had it coming. Who on earth buys food, eats the food, and then expects to be able to return the packaging? Our next Reddit post is from J. Vandip NL. Having worked during college at the local movie theater, I came across all kinds of Karens. In this particular case, Karen went to the movies with her 2 kids around the age of 4 to 5. As you guys know, movie theaters have high prices for snacks and drinks. It was Sunday morning, and usually this is a busy time with a lot of small children and kids movies. It's obvious that I'm dealing with a total Karen straight from the start, keeping on her sunglasses, chewing gum, and being on her phone the entire time she's waiting in line. When it's her turn, I think to myself, "OP, your shift just started. Just be nice and maybe this will all go over smoothly." It didn't. Karen is annoyed by the price of the tickets. You can buy the tickets and your snacks at the same register, and is not happy with the assortment of healthy snacks. I'm still there, trying to keep on my best smile like I'm the effing Joker in a low-budget Batman movie. But I'm getting through her order. Now for the little children. Since they were acting like dogs running around the place, I'll name them after dogs, so Child 1 is Ollie and Child 2 is Rex. Note, in this movie theater, we have a display where you can scoop your own candy in a bag for a fixed price per 100 grams. Being a movie theater, this is crazy expensive, and a full bag can cost around 16 euros or 17 US dollars. "Mommy, can we scoop some candy?" "How much for the candy?" "It's €1.50 per 100 grams. "Yes, Ollie, hurry up with the candy." The other kid says, "Mom, I want some candy too." "Ollie, help your brother get his candy." At this point, she already spent way too much time in line. Normally, you scoop the candy before you make the purchase, otherwise the transaction takes an extremely long time and we can't help other customers. Not for Miss Karen, though. She just goes back to texting on her phone. I'm baffled, annoyed, and just want to go help the other customers because the movie is starting in 15 minutes, and the lines for the registers aren't moving at all. So me, the good Samaritan that I am, try to eyeball the bag of candy Ollie has so that I can get a rough estimate how much the candy will cost. To my enjoyment, I see the kid with an enormous bag of candy almost the size of his head. So I estimate that it'll be around 15 euros. The other kid's bag isn't that full, but he's still scooping, and I think to myself, realistically the price will be higher, but I just want this to be over and I don't want to overprice them. The total will be 44 euros. What? Why is it so expensive? Miss, the candy weighs a lot and the price... But you didn't even weigh it. You're just trying to rip me off. Weigh it and give me the correct price, she says as she grabs the bags from Ollie and Rex. Well, she was correct. I didn't weigh it, but I wasn't trying to rip her off. Heck, I was giving her a huge discount. So I smiled at her and grabbed the bags and put them on the scale. I can see the price, and so can the customer. Sure thing, miss. As you can see, the price of the candy costs 24 euros, so your total will be 53 euros. So, of course, Karen gets angry and wants me to call the manager because I'm still ripping her off. The manager's come along, weighs the candy, and confirms that the correct price is 53 euros. And because you have to pay for the candy when you grab it because of hygiene rules and there's a big effing sign, Karen eventually buys everything and walks away angry with her kids. Luckily for me, the manager was a nice dude, so I didn't get into trouble for guessing the weight. And at the end of the shift, I was glad I could ruin a movie experience for a Karen. And then down in the comments, we have a similar story from Danger Boot. I work at a grocery store and one time our membership cards weren't working. To get a sale, you needed a membership card. Memberships were free and like half the products in the store had these sales. Because the memberships weren't working, most items weren't scanning correctly. Most of the time the sales were for less than $1, except for the real discounted things. We were instructed to overestimate the discounts to keep people happy, so we were taking like $10 to $15 off of totals that were like $40, or $30 off of $70 totals when they'd probably only get $5 to $10 off had everything been working. One lady took issue with her over 30% discount and demanded to pay less. I took her aside, found out what the prices were supposed to be, calculated it in front of her, and made her pay the actual amount. She of course got irate and begged to pay the first price we told her, which would have saved her like $20. I told her, nope, that's what you owe. That's what rude and greedy people get for wasting the time of minimum wage essential heroes. That was rSlash_Maliciouscompliance, and if you like this video then hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.